On a spring morning in March 2023, first responders arrived at an opulent estate in Charleston, South Carolina, to find 52-year-old real estate mogul Charles Dalton dead at the bottom of his grand staircase. His wife, 38-year-old Sophia Dalton, tearfully told officers he had suffered a fatal fall, possibly brought on by the vertigo he had been battling for weeks. To neighbors and friends, it seemed like a tragic accident, an untimely end to the life of a beloved philanthropist and successful businessman. But the circumstances surrounding Charles's death raised questions almost immediately. Sophia's insistence on a quick cremation, her refusal to allow other family members to view the body, and the discovery of a strange chemical in Charles's system during toxicology tests turned the case into something far more sinister. What began as a presumed accident was revealed to be a calculated murder, fueled by greed, manipulation, and betrayal. Sophia, the grieving widow who had won the sympathy of Charleston's high society, soon became the prime suspect in a chilling plot to poison her husband to inherit his immense fortune. Charles and Sophia Dalton were the kind of couple people admired. Charles, a self-made billionaire, was a charismatic and respected figure who built his fortune through shrewd real estate investments. Known for his philanthropy and charm, he was a beloved figure in Charleston's elite circles. Sophia, his much younger wife, was a former model who captivated the public with her beauty and grace. Together they exuded wealth and sophistication, living a life that seemed untouchable. But behind the facade, their marriage was strained. Charles's demanding career left him with little time for Sophia, and the long hours he spent away from home left her feeling neglected and trapped. While Charles remained devoted, showering Sophia with gifts and lavish vacations, his efforts failed to address the emotional void she felt. Over time, friends noticed a change in Sophia. She grew distant, restless, and increasingly dissatisfied. Charles remained oblivious to his wife's growing resentment. To him, their life together was idyllic, a partnership rooted in love and mutual respect. He continued to believe their marriage was strong, unaware that Sophia's discontent was festering into something far darker. By late 2022, Sophia had begun contemplating a way out. Her unhappiness wasn't just about feeling ignored. It was about control. She resented the idea that Charles's wealth was her only source of power. Sophia didn't want to leave the lifestyle his fortune afforded her, but she didn't want to stay tied to him either. Her mind turned to a solution as dangerous as it was calculating: ending her husband's life and securing his fortune for herself. In early 2023, Charles began experiencing sudden health problems. Once full of energy, he became lethargic and weak, complaining of dizziness, headaches, and nausea. Sophia played the role of the caring wife, tending to his needs and managing his medications. To outsiders, she appeared devoted, a model spouse. But to Charles's nephew, Robert Dalton, something felt off. Robert, who worked closely with his uncle, noticed the sudden decline and urged Charles to seek medical attention. Sophia dismissed the concerns, assuring everyone that Charles simply needed rest. As his symptoms worsened, Sophia tightened her control over their home, limiting visitors and managing every aspect of Charles's care. When Charles was found dead at the bottom of the staircase, Sophia's story of a tragic accident seemed plausible at first, but cracks in the narrative quickly emerged, exposing the chilling truth of a murder meticulously disguised as a natural death. On the morning of March 15, 2023, Sophia Dalton called 911, claiming her husband had fallen down the staircase in their Charleston mansion. When first responders arrived, they found Charles Dalton lifeless at the base of the grand staircase. His neck was twisted unnaturally, and blood pooled beneath his head. Sophia, sobbing on the front steps, told officers that Charles had been suffering from dizziness and vertigo in the weeks leading up to his death. It appeared, at first glance, to be a tragic accident. Sophia's composure wavered as she recounted her version of events. She claimed she had been outside gardening when she heard a crash inside the house. Running in, she found Charles lying at the foot of the stairs. Her account was delivered with tears and trembling hands, earning the sympathy of the first responders. However, Charles's nephew, Robert Dalton, arrived at the scene shortly after and immediately noticed discrepancies in Sophia's behavior. Robert, who had a close relationship with his uncle, knew that Charles had been in good health just months earlier. The rapid decline in his condition and his sudden death felt out of character. Sophia's insistence on an immediate cremation also raised red flags. She dismissed suggestions for an autopsy, claiming that Charles had always wanted a simple farewell. This clashed with Robert's understanding of his uncle's wishes. Charles had expressed a desire to be buried alongside his parents. When Sophia grew defensive and refused to discuss the matter further, Robert became suspicious. Despite her protests, Robert pushed for an autopsy, convincing the coroner to delay the cremation. Within days, the results of the toxicology report turned the case on its head. High levels of tetrahydrozoline, a chemical found in over-the-counter eye drops, were discovered in Charles's blood. While harmless when used as directed, ingesting large amounts of the chemical can lead to severe respiratory failure and death. The revelation that Charles had been poisoned shocked investigators. What initially appeared to be an accidental fall now pointed to a deliberate act of murder. With the new evidence, detectives shifted their focus to Sophia, whose role as Charles's caregiver gave her the opportunity to administer the poison without raising suspicion. As the investigation deepened, Sophia's carefully crafted image of the grieving widow began to crumble. Detectives uncovered a trail of evidence that pointed directly to her involvement in Charles's death. Receipts from local pharmacies showed that Sophia had purchased multiple bottles of eye drops in the months leading up to his death. Surveillance footage confirmed her visits to these stores, often during times when Charles was bedridden. A search of the Dalton mansion revealed discarded bottles of eye drops in the bathroom trash, further tying Sophia to the crime. Forensic experts determined that the tetrahydrolazine had been introduced into Charles's food and drinks over an extended period. This slow poisoning explained his worsening symptoms, dizziness, nausea, and fatigue, that eventually left him incapacitated. The financial aspect of the case added another layer of motive. Detectives uncovered recent changes to Charles's will, naming Sophia as the primary beneficiary. The updates, made just months before his death, left her with the majority of his multi-million-dollar estate. Bank records revealed that Sophia had been in contact with a financial advisor shortly before Charles's death, inquiring about how to liquidate assets quickly. Her actions painted a chilling picture of premeditation. Interviews with friends and family members provided additional insight into Sophia's mindset. While she had presented herself as the devoted wife in public, those close to her noted subtle signs of dissatisfaction and resentment. She had confided in a few close friends about her unhappiness, complaining that Charles's demanding career left her feeling isolated and undervalued. What they didn't know was how far she was willing to go to escape. As detectives pieced together the evidence, a sinister timeline emerged. Sophia had been poisoning Charles slowly, using the symptoms to build a narrative of natural illness. By the time he collapsed at the base of the staircase, his body had been weakened by weeks of exposure to the chemical. The fatal dose, likely administered the night before his death, ensured he would not survive. He remembered the path out to the ranch. He pointed out the large bottle of wine that had been sent to him and spoke. Sophia's behavior after Charles's death only added to the case against her. Neighbors and friends recalled her calm demeanor at times when one would expect shock or grief. She had been quick to dismiss inquiries about Charles's condition and seemed eager to finalize the cremation, effectively destroying any remaining evidence. To detectives, her actions were not those of a devastated widow. They were calculated moves to cover her tracks. By the end of March, the case against Sophia was solid. The evidence painted a chilling portrait of a woman who had betrayed the man she once vowed to love. For investigators, what began as a routine death investigation had unraveled into one of Charleston's most shocking murder cases. Sophia Dalton, the glamorous wife of a billionaire, was now the prime suspect in a calculated and cold-blooded crime. On April 1, 2023, police arrived at the Dalton mansion to arrest Sophia Dalton for the murder of her husband, Charles. The once glamorous woman, known for her charm and beauty, now stood accused of a cold and calculated crime. As officers led her out of the home, the neighbors who had once admired her watched in stunned silence. The story of the Daltons' perfect marriage had unraveled into a tale of greed, betrayal, and murder. The evidence against Sophia was overwhelming. Toxicology reports showed lethal levels of tetrahydrozoline in Charles's system, and forensic investigators traced the chemical directly to Sophia's actions. Her purchases of multiple bottles of eye drops, confirmed through receipts and surveillance footage, pointed to a deliberate effort to poison her husband over time. The discarded bottles found in the home and her control over Charles's care further implicated her in the crime. Sophia's financial motives sealed her fate. Detectives discovered she stood to inherit millions from Charles's estate, thanks to a recently updated will that named her as the sole beneficiary. Coupled with her inquiries to a financial advisor about liquidating assets just days before Charles's death, it was clear she had planned to secure her future at the cost of her husband's life. Sophia maintained her innocence, claiming she had no idea how the chemical ended up in Charles's system. Her defense team argued that the poisoning could have been accidental, suggesting Charles may have mistakenly ingested the eye drops himself. However, prosecutors dismantled this narrative, emphasizing the improbability of such an event and pointing to Sophia's suspicious behavior after Charles's death. The most damning evidence came from Sophia's actions in the hours and days following the murder. Her insistence on an immediate cremation, her refusal to allow family members to view the body, and her reluctance to discuss an autopsy painted the picture of a woman desperate to cover her tracks. Prosecutors argued that these actions showed consciousness of guilt and a calculated effort to erase evidence. Public reaction to the case was intense. Media coverage portrayed Sophia as a modern-day femme fatale, a woman who had used her beauty and cunning to manipulate and betray her husband. The trial became a spectacle, drawing widespread attention as details of Sophia's deceitful actions emerged. The image of the grieving widow was replaced by that of a cold-blooded killer, willing to go to unimaginable lengths for financial gain. In the end, Sophia Dalton was convicted of first-degree murder and tampering with a consumer product. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict brought some closure to Charles's family, particularly his nephew Robert, who had fought to ensure the truth came to light. The Dalton mansion, once a symbol of wealth and success, remained vacant, a haunting reminder of the tragedy that unfolded within its walls. For those who knew Charles and Sophia, the story became a cautionary tale of how love, trust, and ambition can turn deadly when fueled by greed. On the morning of May 10, 2023, Savannah police were called to the luxurious estate of 56-year-old millionaire Robert Hayes. The caller, his wife Olivia Hayes, reported that Robert had fallen down the grand staircase in their home. Officers arrived to find Robert lifeless at the base of the stairs, his body twisted in a way that suggested a sudden and violent fall. Olivia, visibly shaken, explained that Robert had been feeling unwell for weeks and likely became dizzy, losing his balance. At first, it appeared to be a tragic accident, but inconsistencies soon emerged. Olivia's urgency to cremate Robert's body, her evasive answers to questions, and subtle signs in the home raised suspicions. When toxicology reports revealed the presence of tetrahydrozoline, a chemical found in over-the-counter eye drops in Robert's system, investigators realized this was no accident. It was a carefully planned murder. As detectives uncovered a trail of evidence pointing to Olivia, a chilling story of greed and betrayal began to unfold. What seemed like a tragic loss of a successful businessman became a case that shocked the Savannah community and exposed the sinister motives of the woman he trusted most. Robert Hayes was a man admired by all who knew him. From humble beginnings, he built a hospitality empire that spanned boutique hotels across the Southeast. Charismatic and generous, Robert's life was a story of success, one that inspired many in Savannah's high society. His charm and reputation as a self-made millionaire made him the centerpiece of every event he attended. Olivia Hayes entered Robert's life at one of his hotel openings. 17 years his junior, she was a stunning and ambitious woman who had once pursued a modeling career. The two seemed like an unlikely match, but their whirlwind romance quickly captured attention. Within a year of meeting, they were married in a lavish ceremony, cementing their status as one of Savannah's most glamorous couples. To outsiders, their marriage appeared perfect, but those close to the couple noticed subtle tensions. Olivia, accustomed to the attention her beauty brought, seemed increasingly restless in her role as Robert's wife. She enjoyed the luxury his wealth provided, but grew resentful of the time he spent on his business. Robert, ever focused on growing his empire, remained oblivious to her dissatisfaction, believing their shared success would keep their bond strong. By early 2023, cracks in their relationship became more apparent. Olivia began spending more time away from home, frequenting social events alone and confiding to close friends about her unhappiness. She described feeling trapped, voicing frustrations about Robert's control over their finances and decisions. Though she smiled for cameras and maintained the image of a doting wife, her resentment deepened behind closed doors. Her happiness died. In March 2023, Robert's health took a sudden and mysterious turn. Once a vibrant man, he became lethargic, frequently complaining of dizziness, nausea, and headaches. Olivia stepped into the role of caregiver, preparing his meals, monitoring his medications, and ensuring he stayed hydrated. Friends and staff praised her dedication, but Robert's nephew, Thomas Hayes, noticed changes that made him uneasy. Thomas, who worked closely with his uncle in the business, was puzzled by the sudden onset of symptoms. Robert had always been in good health, yet now he was bedridden for days at a time. Olivia dismissed concerns, claiming it was just stress or a minor bug. She insisted Robert needed rest and began limiting visitors, taking full control of his care. Privately, Olivia was implementing a sinister plan. She began adding eye drops to Robert's drinks, a substance that was odorless, tasteless, and easily available. The poisoning was slow and methodical, worsening his symptoms over weeks. She painted a picture of a man battling illness, all while preparing for the moment when she would claim the fortune she believed was rightfully hers. By May, Robert was too weak to leave his bedroom for more than short periods. When Olivia called 911 to report his fall down the stairs, investigators were already skeptical. What began as a presumed accident was about to unravel into one of Savannah's most chilling murder cases. As Robert Hayes' health began to deteriorate, in March 2023, those closest to him grew concerned. The once vibrant and energetic entrepreneur was now confined to his bed for days at a time, struggling with headaches, dizziness, and nausea. His condition baffled family and friends, especially his nephew Thomas Hayes. A fixture in Robert's business and personal life, Thomas had always admired his uncle's resilience and vigor. Now he watched helplessly as Robert's health spiraled downward. Olivia Hayes, Robert's wife, stepped seamlessly into the role of caregiver. She reassured those around her that she was doing everything possible to help Robert recover. Olivia insisted his symptoms were likely the result of stress, overwork, or a lingering virus. She played the part of a devoted spouse, managing his medications, preparing his meals, and monitoring his condition. To the casual observer, her dedication was admirable. But Thomas felt uneasy. Despite Olivia's explanations, Robert's symptoms seemed unusual and out of character. Thomas urged his uncle to seek medical attention, but Olivia dismissed the idea, claiming that rest and time at home were all he needed. She began restricting visitors to the house, citing Robert's need for quiet and privacy, further isolating him from those who might have noticed something amiss. What no one suspected was that Olivia was deliberately worsening her husband's condition. Over the course of several weeks, she had been adding tetrahydrozoline, a chemical commonly found in eye drops, to Robert's drinks. Tasteless and odorless, the substance was easy to conceal. When ingested, tetrahydrozoline can cause severe symptoms, including respiratory depression and, in large doses, death. Olivia's plan was slow and methodical, designed to create the illusion of a natural decline in Robert's health. As Robert's symptoms worsened, Olivia began making preparations for what would come next. She contacted a financial advisor to inquire about liquidating assets and transferring funds from Robert's accounts. She framed her inquiries as precautionary, citing Robert's inability to manage his affairs while unwell. In reality, she was laying the groundwork to claim his multi-million-dollar estate. By early May, Robert was bedridden and unable to function without Olivia's assistance. On May 10, she made her final move. After administering a higher dose of the poison than before, she left him alone in the bedroom, knowing he would soon succumb to its effects. Hours later, she called 911, reporting that Robert had fallen down the stairs. Her voice trembled as she recounted how she had found him unresponsive, painting a vivid picture of a tragic accident. When first responders arrived at the Hayes mansion, they found Olivia in the foyer, her face streaked with tears. Robert's lifeless body lay at the base of the grand staircase, his neck twisted at an unnatural angle. The scene appeared consistent with Olivia's account, a tragic fall likely caused by the dizziness she claimed he had been experiencing. At first, officers saw no reason to doubt her story. However, cracks in Olivia's narrative began to emerge almost immediately. Forensic examiners noted the lack of injuries typically associated with the fall down the stairs. Robert's body showed no significant bruising or abrasions, aside from the fatal neck injury. This inconsistency prompted the coroner to order an autopsy, despite Olivia's insistence that Robert be cremated as soon as possible. Her urgency raised suspicions, particularly with Thomas Hayes, who voiced his concerns to investigators. As the autopsy results came in, the case took a sinister turn. Toxicology tests revealed high levels of tetrahydrozoline in Robert's blood, a chemical that would not naturally occur in the body. Forensic experts determined that the substance had been ingested over an extended period, suggesting deliberate poisoning. The revelation turned Robert's death from an accident to a homicide investigation. Detectives turned their attention to Olivia, whose behavior after Robert's death only added to their suspicions. She appeared calm and collected during questioning, avoiding direct answers and steering conversations away from her husband's condition. When investigators searched the home, they discovered empty eye drop bottles in the bathroom trash can. Surveillance footage from local pharmacies showed Olivia purchasing multiple bottles of the product in the months leading up to Robert's death. Financial records further implicated Olivia. Detectives uncovered evidence that she had contacted a financial advisor just days before Robert's death, inquiring about liquidating assets and accessing funds from his life insurance policy. These actions painted a picture of premeditation, suggesting that Olivia had planned her husband's death to secure his fortune. Friends and acquaintances provided additional context during interviews. While many described Olivia as charming and devoted, others noted her growing dissatisfaction with her marriage. She had confided in a close friend about feeling trapped and longing for independence. Some recalled her fascination with crime stories, particularly those involving poisoning, a detail that prosecutors would later use to argue intent. As investigators pieced together the evidence, Olivia's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. The receipts, surveillance footage, and toxicology results told a chilling story of greed and betrayal. It became clear that Robert's death had been no accident. It was the calculated act of a woman determined to escape her marriage with a fortune in hand. By the end of May, detectives had gathered enough evidence to charge Olivia with first-degree murder. The once-admired socialite was arrested at her Savannah mansion, her tearful protest falling on deaf ears. For the Hayes family, the arrest marked the beginning of a quest for justice in one of the city's most shocking murder cases. On May 31, 2023, Savannah police arrested Olivia Hayes for the murder of her husband, Robert Hayes. The arrest shocked the local community, where the couple had been seen as the epitome of success and glamour. The woman once admired for her beauty and poise was now accused of orchestrating a chilling murder fueled by greed. Investigators laid out their case with precision. Toxicology reports revealed that Robert had been slowly poisoned with tetrahydrozoline, a chemical commonly found in eye drops. Forensic experts determined the substance had been administered over several weeks, gradually weakening Robert until the final dose proved fatal. The discarded eye drop bottles found in the home, along with receipts and surveillance footage of Olivia purchasing the products, directly tied her to the crime. Financial records painted an equally damning picture. Olivia had begun inquiring about accessing Robert's assets and life insurance policies before his death, showing a clear financial motive. The recently updated will, which named Olivia as the primary beneficiary of Robert's multi-million-dollar estate, further solidified her intent. Olivia maintained her innocence during questioning, claiming she had no knowledge of how the chemical ended up in Robert's system. She insisted that his death was a tragic accident, pointing to his deteriorating health and alleged dizziness as the cause of his fall. However, her explanations failed to account for the overwhelming evidence against her. Investigators highlighted her urgency to cremate Robert's body and her evasive behavior when asked about his condition in the weeks leading up to his death. As the case unfolded, the public was riveted by the details. News outlets painted Olivia as a cunning manipulator who had exploited her husband's trust. The slow poisoning, the meticulous planning, and the financial inquiries portrayed a woman who had carefully plotted to eliminate her husband for personal gain. For Savannah's high society, the case was a chilling reminder that appearances could be deceiving, and Robert's family, particularly his nephew Thomas, was devastated by the betrayal. Thomas had grown suspicious early on, but was unprepared for the depth of Olivia's deception. He worked closely with investigators, ensuring that Robert's legacy was not overshadowed by the tragedy. For Thomas, justice for his uncle became a personal mission. In October 2023, Olivia Hayes stood trial for first-degree murder. The evidence against her was overwhelming, and the jury deliberated for only a day before returning a guilty verdict. Olivia was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge described her actions as cold, calculated, and without remorse. For the Hayes family, the verdict brought some closure, but the scars of betrayal lingered. Robert Hayes, a man who had built a life of success and generosity, was remembered for his achievements rather than the circumstances of his death. The mansion where the crime unfolded was sold, its opulent halls now a haunting reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded within. Olivia Hayes' story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of how greed and betrayal can turn even the most glamorous lives into a nightmare. For Savannah, the case was a chilling example of how far someone could go when driven by ambition and resentment. For more interesting stories like this one, check This Tragic Case. Thanks for watching.